All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into one of the most decisive and honestly shocking battles of the entire First World War, the Battle of Tannenberg. So, picture this. It's the very first month of World War I. The Russian Second Army, a massive force of over 150,000 men, marches into Germany and is basically just erased from the map. It begs the question, how on earth does that even happen? And this number right here, 92,000, that's how many Russian soldiers were taken prisoner. I mean, the defeat was so total, so utterly devastating, that their commanding general, rather than report the loss, walked into the woods and committed suicide. Okay, let's get into this. To really wrap our heads around a disaster of this scale, we have to start with Russia's plan of attack. It was ambitious, it was aggressive, and like a lot of plans in 1914, it was based on this idea that you could win a swift, offensive war. But as we're about to see, it was also deeply, deeply flawed. And you know, on paper, this plan looked pretty solid. The famous Russian steamroller was going to use its huge numbers to just crush the German defenders in a giant pincer movement. You've got one army hitting from the east and another one coming up from the south. Simple, right? Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The entire success of this whole operation hinged on these two massive armies working in perfect sync. But there was a huge problem. Their commanders, General Rennenkampf and General Samsonov, absolutely despised each other. We're talking about a bitter feud that went all the way back to the Russo-Japanese War, and because of it, they just didn't coordinate at all. And this personal drama was made about 1,000 times worse by a massive technical problem. And I mean, this was a killer. Yeah, you're not going to believe this, but because the Russian armies had outrun their telegraph cables and they were desperately short on secure codebooks, they just started broadcasting their daily marching orders in the clear, over the radio, for anyone and everyone to hear. And guess who was listening? Yep, the Germans. So as these two giant Russian armies are pushing into their territory, the first German commander, he just panics. But the guys who replace him, they look at the Russian mistakes and see a golden opportunity. And the German high command moved lightning fast here. They fire their panicked general, von Prittwitz, and bring in this new, super aggressive team, Paul von Hindenburg and Erich Ludendorff. First thing they do? Cancel the retreat. They decided to roll the dice on a huge, high-risk gamble. The plan was nothing short of audacious. They figured, why try to defend against both armies? Instead, they decided to use Germany's awesome railway network to their full advantage. They left just a tiny cavalry force to keep an eye on Rennenkampf's army, and then threw almost everything they had at Samsonov's unsuspecting Second Army. And this is where it all comes together. The Germans just brilliantly used Russia's own mistakes against them. That feud, the total lack of coordination, and of course those uncoded radio messages, to set a trap that was designed for one thing: total annihilation. So, because they knew exactly where the Russians were heading, thanks to those radio intercepts, the Germans just let them walk right into a trap. They let Samsonov's army push deep into a pocket. Then, using those railways to move with insane speed, they hammered both of his exposed flanks and just slammed the door shut right behind him. The trap was sprung. So, by August 29th, it's over. The main body of the Second Army is completely surrounded. They were trapped in what the Germans called a Kessel, a cauldron, and for the next 2 days, they were just relentlessly pounded into dust by German artillery. The fighting was over, but the story of Tannenberg was just beginning. Its legacy would go on to shape the entire war on the Eastern Front. And it would create this powerful national myth inside Germany that honestly would have consequences for decades. Just look at these numbers. The difference is just staggering. An entire Russian army just gone. Hundreds of big guns lost. And the German losses for a victory this big, incredibly light, all things considered. So what did this all mean? Well, for Germany, it was a massive propaganda win. Hindenburg and Ludendorff became these larger-than-life national heroes. They even named the Battle of Tannenberg on purpose, to symbolically get revenge for a medieval defeat to Slavic forces hundreds of years earlier. For Russia, it was a knockout blow to their morale. It exposed just how weak their high command was. And for military history, well, Tannenberg became the textbook example of how to completely annihilate an enemy army. Which brings us back to the big question, right? Was Tannenberg really a masterpiece of German military genius and speed? Or was it just a complete and utter Russian self-destruction brought on by incompetence, terrible communication, and a bitter personal feud between two generals who just couldn't stand each other?